is what is mindfulness? So we are going to do the teaching from Patanjali Yoga Sutra. We will understand Patanjali Yoga Sutra step by step, and we will continue to do that. So, know the mind and discipline and educate. So, what is the mind to discipline and educate? So, when the matter comes in contact with the consciousness, the mind is created. So, mind is the bridge between matter and consciousness. That is why I always say, oh, I see my hand, but the hand never says to me that, okay, I also see you. So this is matter. And here is the I-ness. That I is of the nature of consciousness. So from there, our masters have concluded that there are only two things in the world. One is self of the nature of consciousness, another non living matter, not self. I know you, but I'm different and separate from you. So that I-ness is of the nature of consciousness. First thing to understand. Now, one is matter, other is pure consciousness. Matter has no problem, consciousness has no problem. Problem comes in the mind. Why? Because all experiences takes place in the mind. My pain and pleasure, my duality and a conflict, my likes and dislikes. Huh? I have all experiences takes place in the mind. Second point to understand. Another point to understand that mind is structurally one, but it has four functions. How you recorded video from the iPhone. How did you talk to your friend from the iPhone? How did you send me the message? iPhone. So iPhone, structurally one, it has many functions. Similarly, when we use the word mind, it structurally it is one, but it has four functions in two pairs: mind, memory. Mind and memory. These are the two functions of the mind, and the intellect and the ego in the intellect. It is the intellect that says, I am, you are, so I-ness and you. What is to discipline? Everything is okay. We have understood about the mind and the memory, function, the intellect, and the ego. What is to discipline? So, mind by default always wants. And what it wants, it don't get. It gets something, it doesn't get lot of things. So it accumulates impressions of the thoughts, of feelings, of liking and experiences. First level of accumulation of impressions. What I get, I don't like, another set of impressions. What I like, it does not remain forever, another set of impressions. So, because of response and reaction, the mind continues to create trillions of impressions. Take an example, simple. I write something here with a pen, and when I turn the page, I see the impression on the back of the page. That is known as impression. We accumulate trillions of impressions in the mind. You see a person and you have a disliking, you have already created an impression whether you express it or not. You are thinking inside good for any person or a bad for a person. You have started creating impressions. And these impression triggers the mind, causes the anxiety, stress, duality, conflict, problems, challenges in life. That is what we say the mind in anxiety. Another part to understand what, okay, that is okay, the impressions are there, but how come it creates anxiety, stress, reaction, duality, conflict in me? There, our master replies. They say mind is an instrument of knowledge that perceives. First thing, how do I know you? Mind going through the sense organ, recognizing the shape and the color and the form, and then I say, I know you. But this knowing process takes place in the mind when the mind divides and perceives. It divides. What is the meaning of that division? Pay attention. When I say, I know you, I am here, you are there, division is there. First principle. Second principle, I become the knower, you become the known, an object to be known. When I say I know the computer, I know your house, so your house is a modification in my mind that is an object to be known, and I, they both are different. That is how the mind divides and perceives. No, no, you tell us what causes the problem. Take one more example and then conclusion. When I say I am stressed, means I is different from the stress because I know that I have a stress. Then what happens? No, no, tell us where lies, what causes the mind suffering. So when this mind, that is I, identifies with any object that is known, it starts the journey of the suffering. When the seer and the seen identifies with each other, seer, I identify with the body, so whatever is happening in the body becomes my experience. So Master says, Patanjali, especially the great master, who says that it is the seer that identifies with the seen and then it causes the problem. I have seen those people who love their car and some dent takes place. and their heart sinks because they identify themselves with the car. Some people identify themselves with their house, some with the living beings, and that identification begins the journey of suffering. Again, we have another question. What is the mind that divides and perceives that causes the suffering? So, our master says the mind divides into 5 subjective states, 5 objective states. 5 subjective states, wandering mind. That is why I say, oh, my mind is wandering. Then, obsessed mind. That is another subjective state. Then, a forgetfulness mind. So, these 3 states of the mind are responsible for suffering. But the fourth one is one pointedness. The mind is living within. And the fifth is the empty state of the mind. So these are the 5 subjective states of the mind. So we have the 5 objective states of the mind. What are they? The right perception, factual perception, observed fact, and understood by the mind. And when that perception turned opposite, it becomes a wrong perception. Is sky blue? No. The blueness in the sky is a false perception. Water in the mirage, wrong perception. Water is not there. So then the third categories is a fancies and imagination. Daydreaming, fancies and imagination. Fourth is the sleep, and fifth is the memory. Now take only one example. One example. The mind is wandering. This is a wandering state, subjective state. And here is the objective state. The mind has a wrong perception. Wrong perception joins with wandering mind, flickering mind. That mind is not able to find out what is right and wrong. That is what happens in relationship. That causes the problem. So who is responsible for the problem? None of these people. It is the state of the mind. That is, I wanted to talk to that couple who was not interested in listening. So it is. So what do you mean by discipline and education of the mind? We are getting a right answer now. That if the mind lives in the last 2 states, one pointedness, that means the mind is moving within and living within, or in the empty state. That empty state is the state of mindfulness. And so we have to start the journey from one pointedness with the right perception of the subjective state of the mind. So what happens? What happens when I recognize the mind is moving within? The moment I recognize the mind, that mind is a quiet mind. And the quiet mind that is living within is a happy mind. Quiet mind facing inside, that is happy mind. So I said facing within, looking within. Why not looking in the world outside? See what happens when we look outside into the world. The world is classified into place, Place means your house, my house, highway, street, restaurant, mall, different places. So first classification is place. Second is object. That object may be a person, non-living thing, a smartphone, a TV, and the monitor, and a person, and a relationship of a spouse, of son and daughter. Second classification. Third, time, past, present, or the future. So these three factors creates trillions of events. We live with at least 50,000 events every day, made by, created by the three factors: place, time, object. You are in the kitchen at a particular time, at a particular place, doing one thing is one event. You put the pan on the gas stove, second event. So, like this, we live mostly with the 50,000 event, and this mind becomes crazy. It contains likes and dislikes, reaction, anxiety, duality, conflict with those events. How many things we have inside when the mind is facing inside? There is only one. One you, not millions. So, what is the discipline and education of the mind? The mind must face within. Mind must go within from outside to inside. The journey of mindfulness and meditation begins. The last point before we go for doing the meditation. So, understanding these factors, what exactly it means by discipline and education of the mind. Discipline and education of the mind, to learn driving is different. Learning how the iPhone or how the phone works is different. You see that how to cook in the kitchen is different. The way how to discipline and educate the mind for mindfulness is different from where we get the knowledge. We have the manual for the iPhone, we learn it, and so we have the manuals, and these manuals are the teachings of the masters. First part. So once we know those principles, the right knowledge, what is that right knowledge contained in these manuals and the teachers and the teachings of the text? Teachings and of the masters and the text. Only one major factor: how to work on the mind, then mind works on it. You have to learn those principles. So if you don't learn those principles, how you can work on the mind? It is not possible that you read the manual of a phone and apply on the mind. It will not work. That is why the right knowledge is important. Now, what happens when you have a right knowledge? Right knowledge. What happens when you have a right knowledge? The mind and the intellect becomes clear. Mind and intellect becomes clear. So when it becomes clear what it means, you don't have thoughts. Then you will never complain. Oh, I had lot of thoughts. I was trying to control in meditation, but it could not. It will not be controlled once you don't have the right knowledge. You have thousands of vehicles on a highway. When you reach your home, you don't fight with any vehicle. You simply move inside, you reach your home. So when the mind reaches its own home moving inside, it has nothing to worry about those thoughts and feelings and sensations. So let us start now our mindfulness or meditation practice. Eyes are closed. Close your eyes. So when you close your